Well, Winwood, Oklahoma's where we meet our Tiger King. He's got them monkey chimps and tiger cubs, the cutest thing you've seen. He's got all his meth head buddies, and they're all working for free, serving cheap Totino's pizza covered in rotten Walmart meat. Then, of course, there's old Doc Antle. The Tigers made him rich. And don't forget about Carol Baskins. Man, we fucking hate that bitch. We got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail.
All right, well, we're back. Welcome back to Tiger by the Tail. Episode 4 of Tiger King Playing with Fire is the subject today. Everybody feeling okay? Corey looks good. Drew looks good. DJ looks great.
We're good, man. We're doing solid over here in DJ land.
Yeah, I feel like if anybody didn't know anything about this podcast and saw this, they would be like, well, everybody's in costume.
I would like it noted that literally 2 seconds before you got on, I drew this upside down like a goddamn macaroni grill waitress, and I think I did a pretty good job.
He did.
So,
I went to look at something else, and I could hear him shuffling, and I came back, and he just looked phenomenal.
Oh, I did fuck up the Y.
Okay, all right. Still, that's good. One out of however many number of letters that is ain't bad. The Y is upside down for everybody only listening right now. And I just read that as purposeful. But then when you said you drew it upside down, I had to ask.
No, I was just sitting here trying to hit, and I guess I got to the Y, and I fucked that up.
It looks more sideways than it does upside down.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I mean, fucking, you know.
It looks good. Good.
Yeah.
I was just curious. So, episode 4, Tiger King opens up with Joe doing some Joe shit. We get some more of his tasty jams. And I got to say, like, Joe rocking out to his own shit in his truck with a tiger in his lap is a hell of a mood, you know? Like,
yeah.
I one of the few times that I envy Joe Exotic throughout this whole thing. He just...
It's funny, when me and Amber were watching it the first time, she goes, good God, he's listening to his own shit. And I had to pause and be like, aside from the tiger cub in his lap, me and him aren't very different right now.
No.
Because when I come out with a chart topper, I fucking, I bop it for a while.
Well, he also sang over a track that he paid a professional band to make. So in a lot of ways,
I'm better than him.
So we've gotten into this now. That never comes up in the documentary, but it has since surfaced on the internet, and then the other, at least one podcast exists about Joe Exotic. And so, yeah, Drew, but it is him singing. He is singing. He just paid he
paid someone to
band.
cut the tracks and supposedly write them.
He didn't write them either.
I assuming he gave him the thought.
Surely, I'm about to say they're all pretty tiger centric.
And they wrote him for him, and then he would sing on the track, just like over the top, like almost like a karaoke track with music. But then he would record himself, which is a bold move, because to me it's like, if somebody goes, "Is that you singing?" He can honestly say, "Yeah, I sang on that."
I mean, look, without knowing the full details of how he went about it, I kind of feel like if he found some bands, paid them to provide this service, and again, he had to at least give them a lot of creative direction.
Oh yeah,
there ain't no way somebody else independently wrote "Here, Kitty, Kitty."
No, it's kind of like how when Levon Helm and Robbie Robertson got into it back in the day, because Robbie Robertson technically did pen all of those songs. And Levon Helm was like, that's true that you did, but they're literally all about my experience. Like, you heard me talking about, like, the night they drove Old Dixie down, Cripple Creek, like, all these come from my shared experiences with my people. You wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for me. So even though I didn't technically write it, I mean, come on, dude, I need a little bit of credit for it.
Well, him and the band also made the music, too.
Right.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, the more I think about it, I bet they kind of collaborated. I read
surely
because I just read a thing. It was backed up. I just didn't click on the links. You know what I mean? It mentioned the name of the band and all that, and it was a guy who had a podcast way before this show ever existed. And that band is, like, I'm certain happy with what's going on right now. I do wonder who owns the masters, and if they're getting any extra money off this documentary. I bet they don't.
Man, if I had, I mean, you know, Joe Exotic had a fairly decent business acumen. I bet he owned the Masters.
That's what I'm saying.
And
I
yeah,
bet that
as you
band-
said, like him having creative control and stuff, this dude, the only thing that he knew he couldn't do was sing. I guarantee you he was annoyingly involved with all that shit.
All right, let me ask you guys this. You're a band. Someone says, I want you to make these weird Tiger songs for me. I'm going to pay you. Of course you say yes. You need the money. It's going to help you stay on the road or buy a new guitar or whatever. Now this comes out. Is that good or bad? Are you pumped that more people are turning on to you? Or are you like, oh my God, I thought no one would ever knew I did this?
Well, I think I would look at it two ways in the sense of like, there's a lot of people going like, oh, this is fucking garbage. But like anyone who knows anything about the music industry and the talent it takes to write anything would go, wow, look how well they did with that very specific thing. They're clearly talented. Because like, I mean, again, fucking Here Kitty Kitty's a jam, dude. Like, it's really fucking good.
It's also very possible that they
All about me.
completely forgot they were just studio musicians and would not remember doing his tracks. I mean, you would remember him. Yeah, you would remember. He's a very
even in the world of studio musicians who see some shit, I think this dude sticks out.
But even then, I think it would be more like a job for you to do than anything else. You know what I mean?
I mean, I agree with that part. I think that whoever the people are that did this, it very much was just another job. And I'm sure like, goddamn, what about this one, right? And they never expected it to enter the zeitgeist in the way that it has.
Right.
And
But
Drew
now
is
that it
saying, do you
has-
think that hits or not?
I think it
I
does
don't know.
hit.
That's an interesting question. Well, but where are they? Do they sign some kind? Is Joe savvy enough to have some kind of NDA or something?
I mean,
like
I
you
think
they.
I mean, generally, don't you get like if you have you buy studio recording time, and like
Right, I mean,
go there and work with the musicians?
I'm saying he probably. I'm assuming he paid them to do all this. And
It's,
part of
it's
that
a
was
band, though. It's not like
Right, I
just
know.
regular ass. Like it's a band with a name. So I think it hits for them. If nothing else, people are coming to check them out now, even if it's just as a joke.
Yeah, I was
and as
about
a
to
band, you can't be mad about Eyes on You.
Like one of
No,
some
no.
of their originals.
Yeah, I
you
was
gotta
about
be
to
one
say,
of-
like, if they are allowed to say, hey, we did this, and they're doing shows, and they say, by the way, we're gonna fucking open and close with Here Kitty Kitty and I Saw a Tiger Saw a Man, they're at least gonna have a good 2 years.
Yeah, I agree completely. I'm glad you mentioned I Saw a Tiger. I was going to shout it out if you didn't, because that
Well,
also is a jam.
I've looked it up so that we can, we're speaking hypothetically, but let's put them a name. It's called the Clinton Johnson Band. I'm going to try to figure out how to share this picture, or if I send you guys this article, can y'all share it?
Are you on your computer?
Just click share screen on Zoom.
Okay, here we go.
You see him?
Yeah, that's the
Hell
guy.
yeah.
That's Clinton and Johnson right there.
Oh, buddy, this is a good thing for them.
Yeah, it says hopes to strike gold.
Okay, well then, yeah, well hell, there's the answer to your question.
Yeah.
Like, it does hit for them, and they can take advantage of it, or at least attempt to. Well, I hope they pull it off. Somebody, needs to come out of this on the other side.
Oh yeah, that dude's about to have his third heart attack.
Yeah, so this episode comes out the gate hitting. Not that the other ones don't, but we got all these Joe rocking to his own shit and everything, and then in less than 2 minutes in, we have Joe delivering yet another hellacious soundbite about Carol Baskin, and this one, for whatever reason, just really, really landed for me. So it's at about the minute 47 mark of episode 4. Joe says about Carol. Let me get her pulled up here and share it with y'all. All right, let's hope this works. Screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again.
That she could make money off of, and she was my number one, murdered her husband and fed him to the tigers, and crazy bitch out there.
Here, let's say it.
Number one.
Let's hear the whole thing. Hear the whole thing. I love this line.
County jail. Me and Carol made money off of each other. We became popular off of each other because I was her number one most wanted cub abuser that she could make money off of, and she was my number one, murdered her husband and fed him to the tigers, and crazy bitch out there.
That is the greatest use of hyphens I've ever seen in a descriptor.
I mean, he's right. First of all,
100% right.
Yeah.
That's a wrestling. What do they call that in wrestling, Corey?
The heel,
an angle.
Angle.
Yeah, they had an angle.
Yeah, they work an angle.
Then,
but the lines are crossed here between babyface and heel. It's kind of like they're both stone cold in a way, where it's like, man, like they're doing some heel shit, but we're certainly rooting for one or the other.
Well, I think,
but I just love the way that I love the way that he like describes each of their roles, you know, where he's like, you know, I'm her number one, you know, guy to come after she can make money off of, and she's my number one. Killed her husband, fed him to the tigers, crazy ass bitch person.
Yeah, you know, imagine who his number 2 is. Yeah, I got a couple of murdered his husband bitches out there.
Yeah, as if there was more of that.
Well, you know, rappers did that too, and then comedians will do it ironically, like everyone knows they're not rivals or whatever. But like the first time I saw this, and I was fucked up that night, I'd smoked a lot of weed. I remember thinking, "Oh fuck!" Like I remember being like, "Oh shit." They're in on it.
It's an angle.
Like, oh wait, but he tried to murder her, so it's also real.
Because that's kind of how I felt about when, like, the whole, you know, last year when Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly had their shit going on.
That was definitely.
And the thing is, like, they weren't even trying to hide it to me. It seemed because like one would put out one day, and then the next day, like I understand that Eminem's the king of like coming up with shit off the top of his head or whatever, but it wasn't just like. He's on his fucking phone doing this riff. It was a perfectly produced, well-mastered fucking recap of what this motherfucker just said. So, like, yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it's like they're all in on it. But, like, these motherfuckers.
Because they're entertainers. I think at the heart of it, Joe Exotic is an entertainer. Joe Exotic is an entertainer. Even if it wasn't the same for her, Carol, because she's such a psychopath, you know what I'm saying? For him, it was all show. It was all the show.
Yeah, but there's also a part of me that's like, you know, with like at a certain degree, people can think that, and probably Joe in his mind thought that, like, hell yeah, we're both just making money. Who gives a shit? But it's kind of like how a lot of people said that about like Jon Stewart and George Bush back in the day. Like, oh, y'all are both really good for each other. But like, I know Jon Stewart, and he was not like, oh yeah, great. I don't mind if the country falls apart because this is technically good for me. And I'm not sure that Carol. Joe definitely probably didn't feel that way about Carol because she was literally trying to ruin his goddamn livelihood.
Yeah. I think they were both like aware of this whole dynamic that we're talking about right now. But like, dog, this at some point got very fucking real for both of them.
Yeah.
Like Joe got straight up obsessed with her.
The thing is, it's all a game. But the fact of the matter is, Carol's better at it, and he ain't a big part of this episode. But Doc Antel's better at it than both of them. And then go back to the drug dealer. Until he got caught by the feds, he was better at it than most people who've ever lived. Like, all this shit at some point is a gimmick.
Well, since you just said that, that's actually kind of exactly where the episode then goes from there. We get back into Joe and Carol's dynamic, and it illustrates again how, like, genuinely adept Carol is at, like, everything from search engine optimization to just, like, you know, marketing on the internet with tigers and shit.
Trey hates Carol Baskin.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
He's the only person in the world who hates her for a different reason than
I don't look. I'm jealous. I need some tigers or something. I don't hit, but anyway, she But
well,
Joe,
Trey, your problem is what you put out is actually good content. That like people laugh at it because they know it's good content, but like people
but with no tigers.
No, right. Everyone's laughing at her shit because how horribly bad it is. Now, I'm certain there are some people that watch your shit, too.
Trey's problem, unlike Carol, he means what he says.
Right. That's true, Trey. If you were doing conservative videos, you would hell, Brent Terhune's getting more goddamn clicks than you are because he's confusing people. You're straight down the line. We know what you're about, and it does not hit for a lot of people.
It does not hit. I do not hit. So anyway, Carol's pretty skilled and adept at all this. Joe, he has his own methods. Joe, I love this when he changes his traveling animal road show to just the same name of Carol's shit, Big Cat Rescue Entertainment. Yeah. He adds entertainment on the end of Big Cat Rescue. Fucking pissed them off. And they ask him like how he come up with that name, and he's just like, well, you know, we've got these big cats and we entertain people. That's it.
Bulletproof.
Yeah. You can't argue with it. But they do argue with it. And,
a lot, in court.
And he loses.
In a lot of ways, that was the beginning of the end. His best.
It was. It really was. Because old bitch McConnell, fucking Harold, he says right after this that this is when they first sued him, was over this, and he says, he was like, we really thought that when we levied this big lawsuit against him, that would do it, that he would stop. And I was just like, really?
Okay.
Like who actually thought? You thought
you live in Tampa, Florida? Have you never met a redneck? You fucking idiot!
I know. Fucking.
Hey, while you pause to do whatever you're doing, I wanted to show this to you guys. I don't know if you noticed what this is. A gay farming couple painted one of their cows up like a tiger.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Background. That's Drew's background he's talking about, and it does very much it.
Oh, so that's not Joe Exotic?
No, man. They have an artist friend who painted a cow of theirs to look like a tiger, and they have posed with them. And that's a real life gay couple. Yeah. I want to say in Texas.
So, so as we're getting into this, the beginnings of this like legal feud, like the escalation of the feud between Joe and
Escalation.
This is where I feel like we finally come to understand what in the fuck that Rick motherfucker, that TV producer guy was doing there. Not that I didn't. When he first came up early in the show, Rick, they introduced him as like the producer of Joe Exotic TV, that little internet show, and he was sitting there saying like he never had more than 80 viewers a night, or whatever. And I was like, and they also, when they introduced Rick, they showed him on Access Hollywood and Hard Copy and all this shit back in the day. And so I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing here with this dude doing this? But at this point in season 4, he says
at that
it's
point,
a reality show.
I thought he was the filmmaker's partner.
Right. Yeah, it was wild. But then now it's like, oh, of course it is. And I got to say, I understand the logic. We find out right here at this point in season 4 that the main reason he's there is to do a reality show pilot that he's going to try to sell. And the trade-off, Joe was like, okay, I'll do it under one condition. You got to run my internet show. And Rick was like, fuck it, I'm going to make $1 million off this reality show. I'll do your little piddly-ass internet bullshit. And that was their arrangement. So, yeah, what do y'all think?
Yeah, I was about to say, to me, it seems like a really, like, even if he'd just known the whole 80 viewers thing off jump, seeing how crazy this dude is, like, in my mind, this guy's like, all right, the fact that for some unknown reason this guy doesn't already have an audience means that, like, I can probably get him for a pretty good fucking deal, and I can buy
it's a
low
good
and
thing.
sell very high.
And I'm getting all this free footage too,
right?
Of you going on there and being an idiot,
like a literal undiscovered gem. Like Jesus Christ, how has nobody done this?
Right, and as soon as all this came up, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that, because like all the reasons you just said too, it's like, yeah, this now makes complete sense to me what this dude's doing here, and I can't argue with any of his logic at the time. Like, I can't believe, I think I said out loud while watching this whole like segment of this episode multiple times, like, and we kind of find out later why, but until we find out, I was like, how did this not go?
I know.
I was like, dude, there's got to be some reality TV suits who are just kicking themselves ever since Tiger King came out, man. Because some of them had a shot at this and said no, and that blows my fucking mind.
No, me too. Because like when I first saw this about them doing the reality show on him, and he's only got the 80 viewers, my first thought was, remember that Basil Marceau dude that ran for
Tennessee governor? He ran for governor of Tennessee, yeah.
Right, and he lives just right up fucking here.
Running for Tennessee governor. I like this place.
I always thought, like, how the fuck did somebody not get a hold of his ass and do kind of the same thing? And like this Joe Exotic dude is just, I mean, I didn't think you could get crazier than Basil Marceau, but my fucking Lord, you can.
Well, I think here's my these aren't good enough reasons for the record. I'm not arguing this is a good reason, but this is what I think is why. One, with the Tigers with Joe, I think there's certain liabilities there. They also weren't sure if it was legal. And I think the animal cruelty aspect of it probably scared some idiots off. They still should have done it. They would have made $1 billion. And then with Basil Marceau, there's like a lot of laws on how long a mentally handicapped person can work in a day. And
so I don't want to, I got to admit, I'm just curious on a personal level, Drew, what this shit is about Rick. Was there a better time for you to bring it up? Do you want to wait?
I apologize first of all for not being down with the episodes. Do we find out why this never became a reality show?
Yeah, later in this episode we do. So we'll talk about that then. Okay. Sounds good to me.
Very intriguing.
So, all right. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I can't understand. It blows my mind that people said no to this. Although, like we just alluded to, we do find out a little later there's, at least somewhat of a reason. But Joe is super into this shit. Super, super into it. It's not surprising at all. But as soon as Rick is describing, he was like, I went to him and I told him, like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a big throne, gigantic throne, put you in the middle of a shitload of tigers. And you're going to say, I'm the Tiger King with a gun on your hip. And I was just like, yeah, I bet Joe goes for this. And then at the end of it, he's like, and Joe really loved that.
From a legal perspective, I guarantee you, too, that Rick sold Netflix the rights to Tiger King as a name because he's savvy as shit.
Yeah. And
that's what he was going to call his reality show.
So Joe gets very into this whole thing about being the star of his show. He's posing on the throne. He's like whipping his holster out whipping his cape, his literal cape to reveal his gun. I'm the Tiger King. And Rick said you would go into his office late at night and find him just sitting in there watching the footage of him sitting on the throne with a gun on a loop.
Again, I get it. Absolutely.
That part,
no doubt about that.
That part didn't strike me at all, man. That when we did that video for our book release that really turned out, and there was that part where you stone cold stunnered me into the pool. Dude, I about made a gif out of that shit. It hit for me so hard. I watched it so much.
So
yes, it is a mental illness.
Right.
yeah, exactly.
But as Rick has already stated, the trade-off for this was that Rick had to now produce Joe's existing internet TV show. And so now we get into that more in depth, what that looked like. And dog, this shit is fucking crazy. Like the whole thing is like focused on how obsessed his show was with Carol Baskin. They just show all these clips, and it's like, dude, even for a redneck tiger on him motherfucker, some of this shit I was still like, God damn, cuz like you could the shit where he's like fucking shoving dildos into Carol's mouth, and she's like, shooting her in the goddamn face, like putting her head in the jar and shit. It's wild.
Also, what's his sidekick's name? I can't even remember his name with the bullet.
Rinky.
John Rinky.
John Rinky. Now, John comes across as a very sweet and pretty logical person. Right. And I realize he ain't shooting her or shoving it. But if a motherfucker pops a real gun off 3 feet from your face at a mannequin with a real person, at some point, you're like, at least you're crazy by association. Do you know what I mean? I realize what
he was just walking around the goddamn zoo with a goddamn shotgun, shooting goddamn trees. They was probably used to him just goddamn shooting shit.
I guess
that's true.
I guess a lot of your sense is in your legs, and when it turns out
that boy walked himself stupid.
He did.
I believe man, Joe Exotic was just fucking like, yeah, it's all over. It's very much over the top, but at the same time,
I'm on TV.
Yeah, I'm doing something. To fight against his cause, and
No, I know, DJ. You've segued perfectly. You've segued perfectly because I was about to say, we then, like always happens with Joe and Carol, you see Joe being a lunatic about everything, and then every now and then he comes through with something, and you're like, oh, fuck, like the whole thing with her killing her husband or whatever. But that happens again right here in this sequence when Joe brings out this rabbit picture. And so Joe somehow got a hold of this picture of 3 of Carol Baskin's henchwomen, 3 acolytes of her slaves, 3 of her slaves, on her big cat property. And they're holding these clearly dead, and not just dead, but bloodied bunny rabbits, holding these like just brutally murdered bunny rabbits and smiling at the camera. And Joe's whole thing with sharing this and putting it out there was like, and she, cares so much about animals, which, pretty valid point, seemingly to me. And so they go to Carol, and she says, she just gives the explanation first she's like, look, you're bonded to your own tiger they can't get full animals. They can't get freshly killed meat from an early age. It's like a tiger has to graduate to being able to eat a whole rabbit or something. And she's like, and you've got a close relationship with these tigers, and you get to a point when they can eat their first rabbit. And it's a very big day. It's like, like a graduation day type thing. She says all that, and then she's like, yeah, and so in the picture they're holding rabbits covered with blood, and I'm just like, do I really have to explain this to people? Yes, you very much
we want to hear about the fucking tiger bar mitzvah.
Why would you not have to explain holding bloody dead rabbits and smiling? Of course you have to explain that.
Well, this is another example of Carol's one of those people where if you take any one individual strange thing that has come out, I could write it off. If the only bad thing or weird thing I ever heard about her was, well, they's holding these bloody rabbits, and then I saw her explain it, I'd be like, well, that kind of checks out, And then her husband disappeared and blah, blah, blah. And you go, all right, well, he had dementia and he flew a lot. And they had, it's like, but at some point, the 15 things that are just a little off, it's like you murdered your husband, you like bloody rabbits, you want to have slaves, you fucking laugh at weird goddamn times when we're talking about dead people, you paid off your husband's family to not talk, you are a gangster. Just embrace it. Start making gangster videos, man.
You're a wild ass motherfucker.
Well, I will say, after seeing Joe and all that goddamn spoiled goddamn Walmart meat, I was kind of like, fuck yeah, it's dead rabbits. That's
no, look, right.
I'm
to be clear,
on the level of
her explanation, I think her explanation does actually make sense. It's still funny to me that she clearly cannot understand why that's a bad look or why that's like a problem for her whole thing. You know what I mean?
Like of all the things she said, why she feels she needs to plead the fifth on rabbit sacrifice.
Right. It's like asinine to her that she would have to even explain it. But it's like, of course you need to explain it.
And they're being held by her kitty slaves.
Right.
It's context.
That was all the dead animals on my Facebook. That wouldn't even fucking... You know what I mean?
Your Facebook's just filled with dead animals.
Yeah, just like deer, turkey, fucking
rabbit.
But not a single person posting those runs an animal rescue.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I know it's a big cat rescue, and of course they eat meat. I'm just saying, like, she seems indignant at the fact that this is viewed as like a bad look by people, and it's like, of course it is.
Well,
like,
she's a murderer.
Right.
Yeah, but I know. She also wants to quote unquote rescue cats. It's like she's literally trying to end cub petting because it hurts tigers. But you can't understand why other people like bunnies the way you like cats.
Right.
Like, they don't want to see blood all over bunny rabbits, you dumb bitch.
So, but this gets brought in.
That fucking hair flip. That was great.
This gets brought into the lawsuit situation. Right? This becomes a part of it. Joe using, like, getting this like private picture and sharing it and slandering and whatever all over the internet and stuff. And when they ask him in the deposition, they ask him, can you go into detail on, it was Carol Baskin saga number 39, the murder of the dead bunny rabbits or something. And Joe just sits there and goes, well, I mean, look, I've got a whole lot of Carol Baskin sagas. Okay,
you gonna have to be more specific on the time I called her a bitch.
I can't just sit here and just tell you exactly what Saga 39 was about.
Good. That's like asking Bruce Springsteen where he played in March of '76. Sometimes it all runs together, you know.
Right. And then they like totally corner him on it, and that he had done it or whatever, and he's still just like, okay, but I did not take that picture. And the lawyer's just like, yeah, that don't at all matter. You know?
Right.
He seems totally oblivious to all of this, but he keeps going. Again, I don't know how in God's name Harold thought any of this litigious activity would stop Joe Exotic, because he just goes harder and harder every time. Because after, at least the way it's presented to us, after the whole bunny rabbit thing, Joe just keeps coming up with more just high-flying shit to put on the internet. He puts Carol's face on a man in a diaper. He uses like a he's like holding a severed horse dick in a picture as a way to tell Harold to suck a dick. Like, like literally, it's like just telling Harold to suck a dick, but to do that, it's a severed horse penis to get the point across. Like, it's wild, man.
You're gonna be a monkey.
Hey,
listen, yeah, man. Boy got his red
I'm
up.
not here to shit on a man.
It's like a freight train. Once that thing got started, you got.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, I'm not here to shit on a man for having artistic vision.
No, hell no. I mean, what are you going to do with that fucking severed horse dick? Just throw it away before you hit with it?
Half of what our job is as comedians is to say a thing everyone says, but to say it in a new and unique way.
You're 100% right, but he keeps going. It keeps going. He keeps escalating. This man, he loves to escalate. All about the escalators.
Something about that killed me, Trey. You're just like, well, you're 100% right. I just said an insane thing. And you're like, yeah, sure. But
you are right, though. All right, here. I hope I get this timing right. I got another thing I want to share with y'all. Another clip that I enjoy a lot because it's actually kind of, this clip's kind of sentimental for me. But it's this part of the saga. Joe's going in on Carol, just having plot after plot to make Carol look bad. And then we get to this part of his epic scheming. And I said that this clip is sentimental to me, and it is because I don't know, something about this it just makes me think of my wedding day.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joe Exotic, and we're gonna make an honest woman out of this bitch.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
I was wondering what you meant. I thought you meant like most of the people there didn't want to be there, but no, that was pretty good.
Or that it was, half of it was a protest.
So silly little my wife don't hit joke aside. That again, this escalation, because what that scene is from, that clip is from, Joe organizes a group of animal rights protesters or just Carol Baskin protesters to go down there.
Or just people who wanted meth.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what they are. But,
I've told you guys before about when pills first started getting harder to get, Florida was the last place, surprise, surprise, to make that a thing. So, like, it is a white trash pastime to drive busloads full of addicts down to Florida to get drugs.
Florida, the final frontier airlines.
There's a guy from my hometown who used to take people down in his, what's the big Ford, like, Expedition? Wasn't there one bigger
Excursion.
He'd drive people down there in his Excursion, and he would pay for everything. And then he'd get half their pills. That was the deal. Like, I'll drive you down, but you got to give me half your pills, and he'd sell them. My point simply being, like, drug trips to Florida, plus, of course, cocaine. Like, Florida going to Florida, man.
Right. And these people that are, going down to Florida to get their mess, when they get down there, they ain't going to blink and holding up a sign that says, this bitch is an animal murderer, on the side of the road. That ain't nothing. But Joe is dressed as a murdered rabbit, complete with bullet holes and blood all over him, out here leading the charge. And they asked him during the deposition, they were like, did you not participate in this and hand out pamphlets, whatever? And he's like, no, I didn't hand out the pamphlets because that's me in the rabbit suit.
See, that right there is something I wanted to bring up. And to me, that kind of proves that Joe really is like honest about his hatred of her and really does believe that she's doing wrong, because you're talking about one of the biggest media whores of all time, one of the biggest fame seekers of all time. And he was fine not having his face shown. He was fine being an extra in all of this. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, he truly cared about it because he was just playing the dude in the rabbit suit. It was like when George Clooney played the fucking dog in South Park. He just wanted to be there.
Or devil's advocate, and shout out to our man Clooney, who I've always respected. He spends like millions of dollars just like filming a dictator in Africa.
He does, yeah. He's got his own satellite in goddamn space that's trained on
like, buddy, you can't.
Anyway, and he called Trey Fiat.
He did, yeah.
But just play devil's advocate or Corey, he didn't want his face in the pictures because he knew that this was legally another step.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
When has he shown any of that kind of
doesn't shove dildos in
foresight?
You're right. Well, a couple times he's shown some foresight.
Was he a resident?
But what
of
about the goddamn
Oklahoma, or was he a resident of Florida? Like, did he drive from Oklahoma to Florida?
Oklahoma?
Oklahoma. So he drove from Oklahoma to Florida to put on that protest.
Yeah,
Or flew.
Motherfucker.
Yes.
Oh, I doubt he
Stood
flew. I
out
bet he drove with a fucking whole bunch of
Yeah,
motherfuckers.
they had it fucking partied up.
Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna say, how much fun was that trip though? For real,
A fucking ton of fun.
Oh, fucking amazing.
God, and we come down here. Plus you got righteous indignation on your side.
Righteous
You think you're right, and you're in Florida doing drugs. I ain't never been in Florida doing drugs and thought I was right. That's got to be a better feeling.
Son,
righteous red.
Son, if they had an aux cord, that shit was a party.
Woo.
So all of this culminates in
jokes all the way down there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Listening to his own shit all the way down to Florida.
From Oklahoma.
all of this culminates ultimately, believe it or not, with Joe Exotic losing the lawsuit to Carol Baskin to the tune of $1 million. So once this happens, obviously Joe's got he's got a situation. Now he's got to take care of some shit, but he opts to mostly just take all of the things that Carol was owed in the lawsuit and shoot them until they explode, which I respect. If y'all don't remember what I'm referencing, there's a list of assets that Carol is now entitled to from this lawsuit, and there's like fucking watches, like furniture and shit. And so what Joe does is he takes a camera, some tannerite, and some guns, goes down to that poor goddamn pond that's just been through so much shit.
So much.
And he sets the camera, looks at the camera, like, they said you want my watch. Well, how about this? Shoot, explode the watch, and then just set up the next thing and shoot it till it explodes.
It's such a shame that he's gay, because he would have been great in a regular divorce.
I bet he's pretty goddamn good in a gay divorce.
I feel like the fish in that pond just feel like every day's goddamn D-Day.
Yeah, fuck.
God's mad at us again.
Yeah.
I feel like it should be pointed out here. Here's a good place for me to make a point I've been wanting to make the whole time. There's a lot of folks out there on the internet, not many, but enough, who don't understand how people can be quote unquote Team Joe versus Team Carol. And first of all, we made it a point to say they're both horrible.
Yeah,
but this
it's
right
just
here,
the 2016 election, man.
But this right here is exactly why he's more popular now, and why more people are like talking about freeing him, and no one gives a fuck about her. All right, when you sue somebody, all right, maybe he deserved to be sued, but we're gonna find out later. And I don't want to skip ahead too bad, but we're gonna find out later. She tried to kick his own parents out of the house. Like, she tried to enforce this shit to an extreme level. That's a horrible person. Okay, now destroying all the things you owe someone from a lawsuit, that's also a horrible person. But objectively speaking, blowing up watches to tell someone to go fuck themselves versus kicking someone's parents out their house to tell someone to go fuck themselves, one of those is way more rad.
Yeah,
it's just something I identify with in my soul.
Well, and also you say that
nobody's mama and daddy on the street, but I absolutely want to shoot a mattress right now.
Yeah,
God damn it, no pill.
No, I hear you, but like I don't consider, just within the micro sense of this particular argument, I guess, that like, shooting some stuff that you owed to somebody in a lawsuit makes you a bad person. Because like, if somebody sued me and I still in my heart felt I was right and they were coming to take my cabinet, I don't think I'd consider myself, well, of course I wouldn't consider myself a bad person if I took a baseball bat to the fucking cabinet. And I believe, well, to your point, I believe there'd be a bunch of people who agreed with me. And yeah, you're right, we do. Fuck her.
I'm just saying. Saying it. He's got more style than her.
For sure. Because like, to me, I don't think that just because you like acknowledge the objective fact that Joe Exotic is infinitely more entertaining, that don't make you on Team Joe is my thing. So dude, Joe Exotic's a piece of shit. She's a piece of shit. He also you don't have to pick a side.
Right.
But of course he is more entertaining.
Donald Trump is objectively entertaining. I hope he fucking dies. But
that's really, in this whole story, the government is that fucking enemy.
That's
always
100% true.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're the
hold on. I do think that people who get their back up about people loving Joe Exotic because he's entertaining, it's because they've had people in their lives who are shitty but entertaining, who get away with stuff. You brought up Donald Trump. That's a perfect example. He's president. Like, people are getting their back up about that, Trey, because you're right. Saying he's entertaining or acknowledging it doesn't mean that you're on his team. Right. But a lot of people are recognizing people in their own lives who are super entertaining but pieces of shit, and then everyone takes their side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my thing. Is this whole deal is just who's your favorite piece of shit? Like, we all know they all fucking suck. Like, I had this dude on my Facebook, yada yada, and about, I can't believe you like Joe more than you like Carol Baskin. I was like, well, I didn't fucking say that shit. I didn't say that shit. I mean, it's true, but like, fuck them both. Fuck them both. But if they were in a cage match, I'd be going for Joe. That's all I'm saying.
And all I'm saying, though, is America has gotten to the point, though, where like being entertaining is actually a value morally. Like, absolutely. Donald Trump's entertaining, so people are into it, man.
It's weird.
It's super weird.
Well, I mean, I don't think
look at us, Corey.
I don't think it's that America has come to that point. I think we've always been there because, I mean, if you just look at entertainment throughout the years, 20s, 30s, 40s, and people knew terrible shit about these people, but if they could sing, then it didn't fucking matter. If they could entertain you, that like, if Joe Exotic wasn't so, if you just met this dude on the side of the road and heard him tell you all this shit, you'd be like, God damn, fuck this piece of, well, nah, I'd be going to get a camera. But I'm saying,
you're
like,
right. But the fact that it's always been that way, I think, is a point to my point, which is there are people who are fairly against that, who are fairly, like, by fairly, I don't mean like to a degree. I mean like they're being a fair person. It's fair for you to go, man, it's fucking dangerous to prop up people like Joe Exotic just because they're entertaining. And I get that. But at the same time, you know what, Carol? Make better videos, you stupid bitch.
That's what I'm saying.
But I just don't think that what we're doing is propping this motherfucker up. I mean, we're all still just at the end of the day making fun of him. If I met somebody out there who legitimately believed that Donald Trump should pardon him, they're a fucking idiot. That is not what 90% of the people doing this whole, like, making Joe, like, if you share a Joe Exotic meme or something, people aren't like, oh, you're just glorifying him. No, I'm not. We're in a fucking quarantine and it's funny. Shut the fuck up.
You're not. You're absolutely not. But I don't believe it's 90%. Bro, I think 60% of the people sharing Joe Exotic memes absolutely want Donald Trump to pardon him. They're absolutely going to vote for Donald Trump again. And this country's going to fall apart and we're all going to die in a fire. So I might as well be entertained while I'm dying.
I mean, I guess you're
right. This country to fall apart. So this is when the show takes another swing. It's one of the things I think is great about this series is that, like, here's the thing, it, like, how they manage to, in a series made up of characters who are all pretty front and center about what they think and how they are and what they do.
And as you said, Tiger people know what they're about.
Right, yes. In a series that centers around people like that, they still manage to have some serious drama and intrigue and mystery in this motherfucker somehow. These are not generally mysterious people. But here comes some more mystery for you. Here comes some more mystery, because at this point, this is when Joe's TV studio and also his gator house explodes and burns up in the middle of the night, destroying all of the footage for the proposed reality show that Rick had been getting. So, all right, there's so much to unpack here that basically they didn't have any like definitive proof of it. There was a video with a guy who other people thought was Rick walking to the studio before it exploded. Joe weirdly presents some differing and competing theories about who fucked him over. I know that's hard to believe, but he said that, like, on the one hand, he very clearly implicates Carol in multiple videos. Like, you come in here and fuck with me again, I'll kill you, bitch. He literally says, I'll put a bullet between your fucking eyes if you do this shit again. But then also he says that he knows that it was Rick, because obviously Rick and Carol were working together. That's Joe's theory.
That theory of all the fucking asinine theories makes literally the least sense in the entire world.
Dude, I'm so with you on this. Hang on, Drew. Wait, Drew. I know Drew's got some extra shit, and I can't wait to hear it. But before Drew says it, I thought the exact same thing, Corey. As soon as they brought up that they all thought that Rick done, I know. As soon as they brought up that they thought Rick done it, I was like, dude, what? Why? Like this, like
he's suspect zero. Like there's
to
no
me,
fucking
I
reason.
agree with you because I can't see the motive for him doing it because I mean he even says it like that's my fucking retirement to just burn up. Like,
well, like even if he wasn't going to do anything with it, it's not. I mean, what, Drew? Do you think that there's some incriminating shit about him on there or something? Just take it and fucking edit that out.
Any reality TV producer who has been getting this much fucking gold, the last thing on planet Earth that person is going to do, in my opinion, is burn it all up. Like burn the footage. You know what I mean? These are the people that will keep filming instead of helping a person on fire. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like this is the last thing you do is fuck up the footage. You know what I mean? The camera's got to keep rolling. The show must go on. I just cannot wrap my mind around the idea that even if he was
even if he was just over it personally, he could have just sold the raw footage for a fucking so much money to any goddamn reality show company. It makes no sense. There's no argument you can make, Drew. I know you're about to that will convince me otherwise.
Drew has some other information, and I really want to hear it. So let's go.
All right, before I deliver it, let me first say that I agree with you guys. I think Joe Exotic did it. His alibi being at a funeral. We didn't even hear who died. He don't give a fuck about somebody dead in Chicago. That motherfucker ain't ever given a shit about a funeral. His husband, well, I don't want to get into that, but we have literal evidence from this fucking documentary that he don't act right at funerals anyway. I think Joe Exotic did it. So I wasn't dancing because I think I'm about to prove you guys wrong. I'm dancing because I'm about to give you guys some information that makes this not at all airtight. I have almost no confidence in my belief that Joe Exotic did it. And I'm about to tell you guys why. First of all, if you remember from the documentary, his argument was that Rick got paid to do it by Carol Baskin.
$20,000.
And Harold.
Hey, shit.
But where'd that number come from? That came from Joe. Carol Baskin and Harold acknowledged that they did send a Facebook message. We didn't see that Facebook message. They said, well, it had nothing to do with money. They didn't even talk about money. We have no idea what that rich bitch may or may not have offered him. Here's what I want you guys to know about Rick that I learned later. And it didn't convince me he did it, but my God, it's wild. First of all, Rick is a crack addict. Literally.
I can kind of say that.
He has a TV show that wasn't produced by him. Some producers just took his footage of him and his family that he filmed because he was a crazy filmmaker doing fucking crack over the course of 7 years called My Addicted Life. So right now you've got a dude who likes money, who needs money from time to time, especially if he falls off the wagon, and you got a rich bitch who might have offered him money. Second of all, every interview Rick did on this documentary was done from Norway. Do you want to know why?
Really?
Because he fled Texas, where he's wanted for burning 2 houses down.
Oh, shit.
Rick is literally on the lam right now for arson. In the
houses.
Off the top, it's shady that he had anything that he was talking to Carol on any account.
Why would you even answer that?
Yeah. Major shade on that. And then secondly, you could just tell that motherfucker was bugged the fuck out when they had him videotaped. You could tell he was.
Hey DJ, do you know what's legal in fucking Norway?
Crack.
No fucking drugs.
Okay, is there any evidence that shows that Joe knew that Rick was wanted for arson?
Okay. He wasn't then, right?
Okay.
You're saying that happened between the two.
Listen,
right?
I think Joe Exotic burnt that shit up. I really do. Like, that's where I came down.
Yeah, when he talking to his lawyer and all that shit.
Yeah, but it's 55-45 for me now that I know. And, dude, you said, Corey, he could have sold it for a pile of money. He could have now. Dude, he tried to sell it then. He failed twice. Like,
but also,
he was going to sell that reality show eventually, but he failed a couple times.
Okay, all right. Well, let me make this argument though. Like, if he really did he's money hungry and wants drugs or whatever. I mean, I'm fairly certain Joe would have hooked him up with some fucking drugs. He was supplying everybody else with drugs. He was buying everybody else trucks and fucking shotguns and shit.
I'm sure he was doing him drugs with him.
I bet a lot of that footage was bullshit. Them just being high and trying to capture the right. Just sitting there and just trying to videotape a bunch of...
Right. But if that was in the footage and Rick has control of it, he could still edit it and control the narrative. So I'm still not fucking sold because, like, I don't know, man.
I'm with you. I think Joe Exotic did it, but I think it's way closer than we originally thought. Because here would be my argument. If I'm Joe's lawyer in this particular scenario, you've got a man with the footage. You've got a man with the motive. You've got Carol Baskin, a rich woman, offering him, and I wouldn't say Joe said 10 grand. Where'd they get that number?
Now, what was Joe's reason for burning down the house?
Hold on, I'm about to get into that, but but before we do though, Drew, do you know the houses he burned down in Texas or whatever? What the story was behind those?
I know one of them. I know one of them was his own, or excuse me, the one he was living in. He didn't own it, and that's all.
That's
I
fine.
know.
So, all right, DJ, since you brought it up, the other side of the argument as far as what Joe's motive was for why he may have done it was that he became convinced that all this footage that Rick had, A, made him look bad, but B, could be incriminating. There were things that were like subpoenaed that were burnt up in this fire, and that he became convinced that Rick was like out to get him. Okay. With all this footage, but like I think Joe did it too, but like that one part also seemed dubious to me because it's hard for me to believe that Joe Exotic ever once had the thought that he might look bad on camera. Like what he was putting
until
out
the lawsuit,
TV show every night. You know
until
what I mean?
The lawsuits start coming out, but then I have to go back into I don't see a motive really for Carol because in Carol's mind, anything that they have shot there. Anything they've shot there is going to work to her favor. There's nothing incriminating from Carol in that.
She wanted to steal this.
If I'm Carol, I don't want it exploded. I want it stolen and given to me so that I can say everything that he hasn't been allowed to say. So like, Carol's off the fucking list in my opinion. And Rick, you know, I mean, the crack stuff aside, it was fucking Joe. There's no way it wasn't fucking Joe.
I agree with you. Ultimately, my biggest fact for Joe doing it is that when he found out Carol was talking to Rick and Rick was talking to Carol, he got scared that what Rick and Carol were talking about was Carol saying, I'll give you 50 grand for the footage so that I can use it in court and prove that he's blowing up watches and couches and things that are mine, et cetera, et cetera. And that's ultimately why I think Joe did it. And again, his alibi was that he was at a funeral and no one knows anything about it.
Right. And that was not a man
even say who died.
That was not a man who kept like grievances not public. Like he's a drama queen. Like he would definitely be putting that on fucking Front Street. Yeah. If he cared enough about somebody to go to Chicago for their funeral, he would also have some fucking sob story to tell to make it all about him because that's how people like him operate.
Well,
he quite literally did that later in the.
I know. That's the next episode, so that's what I'm alluding to.
You know, either way, man, like, you know, pour one out for them poor little water lizards that got killed in there. Like the alligators, they didn't deserve this, you know.
Ain't they been around longer than trees?
No, that's sharks. But alligators have been around like since the dinosaurs.
And alligators alligators also with sharks have not evolved because they reach their apex status immediately. And
once you reach max level, you stop leveling.
Trey, I think gators are almost as old as sharks, man. I really do. And
it's hilarious to me that like that was his video footage room and his alligator room because like I mean my laundry room also serves as where we like keep the coats and like the extra Tupperware and shit, but like god damn, you talk about the juxtaposition of a room.
I agree with you, but it was also his singing studio. And if you had heard, and this ain't true, anybody out there listening, I know if we got any Yankees listening, you'll think this is true. But if you had heard that Second Helping was made in a studio and Skinner was just like right beside some goddamn gators, A, you'd believe it, and B, you'd be like, that's fucking rad. Hell yeah.
Yeah, honestly, if you had just told me that that was a thing, I'd be like, yeah of course.
I can see how that put out some good art.
This actually just now occurred to me. I'm sure there's a simple explanation, but so a big part of this whole part of the story is that all that footage burnt up, right?
Yeah, and he didn't back it up, which blows my fucking mind.
Yes, I agree with that. That's weird as hell to me, too.
Because I've backed all this up, and I don't hit.
Right.
But you're not on meth.
But
yeah, he was probably really high a lot. They were probably
is there not a shitload of footage that we see in the docuseries that's from this exact same time frame?
Yeah,
like, isn't
kind
there?
of,
There's some. There's some, and he said some survived. And this, by the way, this brings me to one other thing I wanted to bring up. I even made a note about it earlier. Just real quick on Rick. I still think Joe Exotic did it, but Rick making fun of Joe for watching himself on that throne. Meanwhile, he made a documentary about his own addiction.
Yeah, but all right.
You're glorifying your lowest moment, but you're going to shit on a man for being into him sitting on a throne?
Well, you could say glorifying your lowest moment or making fucking something out of it. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, Corey. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I said documentary. Reality television show. It was a goddamn reality.
Whatever. I'm just saying, like, I understand making chicken salad out of chicken shit.
I just think this guy's the type of guy that sees any kind of opportunity for something like that and takes it. And I like he in his own mind, he could be like, this makes me and my entire family look like complete pieces of shit, but I bet I can sell it to A&E, you know, whatever. So he don't give a fuck.
I agree with you completely, and I get that. I'm not even knocking him for being that way. I'm knocking him for then trying to shit on a man for watching himself on a throne.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Well, you know, granted, it's just he does not like Joe Exotic, so it's a little biased there. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
So we got another clip for you, but this one's going to be interesting because I don't even know what it says. This is my one of my many shortcomings as a note taker and host for this type of thing. My note says at around the 29-minute 5-second mark, and then my note just says, bet this old boy says that a lot. So
I don't remember the N-word in this documentary, so
I bet it's bitch.
So let's again, I don't even know what this is going to be. I'm just more curious than anything. So here we go. Let's share the screen here. Y'all see it?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Oh, I know what this is.
Oh hell, I think it says it right there.
I'm John.
Which maxed out all the credit cards is when he asked me if I wanted to put the zoo into my name. And at the time, it sounded like a good idea.
That's it. I know that. That's all it was. I couldn't remember that till we plugged it, but just at the time it sounded like a good idea.
Every single redneck old boy I know, if they ever wrote an autobiography, it could all be titled. And at the time, it sounded like a good idea.
Oh, dude, literally almost everybody on this show at one point or another says that.
Hell, we're going to say that.
Yeah.
Dude, we're going to say that after we put out all 9 episodes of this shit.
Yeah, look at me and Corey right now.
Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that 2 years from now, somebody's going to go, you spent 65 plus hours doing that? And I'll be like, at the time, it sounded like a good idea.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It reminded me, as this documentary has so many times, of where I came from, Sunbright, Tennessee, Morgan County in general. Real quick, red-ass story. There's a company there that does construction of various types, and the federal government was doing something up on a mountain. Who knows what? Me and DJ might get into that on our podcast. It's probably building underground bunkers. But whatever they were doing, the federal government found out that one company was getting all of the bids, and it was because, Trey, I know you used to do federal bidding. Basically, these rednecks had told companies from not Morgan County, don't you fucking bid on our goddamn bids or we'll fucking come shoot you. And that made most of the local people not do it. Like even from Knoxville, they still got bids from like out of town, but the out of town companies were bidding way too high. Well, anyway, the feds got a hold of this and they realized they were doing it. So they said, y'all can't bid anymore. So Papa Joe, his name was also Joe, put the entire company in the son-in-law's name because he had a different last name. And my brother used to work for him, and he's telling me this story. And I go, so they signed over $12 million, $24 million worth of a company to one old boy who just happened to marry their daughter, this dumb fuck I used to play high school basketball against. Why didn't he take some of that? Like, why didn't he exude his power in that moment? And my brother goes, because he's a fucking idiot, Drew.
Right.
There's never been more of a simple like, oh yeah, that's why they did it. He's a patsy.
Right. Well,
What I'm getting at is this is a very classic old boy move.
Yes.
Having stuff in other people's name is the most classic old boy That's why it's always been hilarious to me that people cannot call Bruce Jenner Caitlyn Jenner when like all their shit's in a completely different name too. Like why you got a problem with different names all of a sudden?
So, but Drew, I mean, since you brought that up, it actually goes back to something that you had said earlier about, because yes, we get into that right now. Joe was going around putting a bunch of shit in a bunch of other people's names for this exact old boy reason, right? Puts the old zoo in his husband's name, but also he put a lot of shit in his parents' name. And you're talking earlier about Carol going after his parents explicitly, and I'm not trying to defend Carol. I'm just genuinely saying it's also presented as though like that's also very much on Joe, because Joe put these assets in their name, which brought Carol to their doorstep or whatever and kind of fucked them over. You're a lawyer. What's up with that?
Didn't she try to take their house though? Like their literal house?
I mean, I'm sure she tried to take it all. Again, I'm not like defending her. I'm just saying it's part of this. Part of the story is that Joe put a bunch of shit in their name to try to hide it, but that didn't work. Carol came after it anyway.
And he was also trying to take it out and put it in old boy's name too, right? He was trying to liquidate some of that shit.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say it's common, but a thing that comes up in some civil cases is you have the option. Like a judge or a court will tell you, basically they'll be like, do you want to take everything but their house? Like there's almost like a, listen, do you want to take it all but the last thing they own? And my point was simply Carol, much like ExxonMobil or whoever else, was like, I want it all.
Well, is there such a thing as like, because, you know, you hear like a bunch of these lawsuits where like someone's suing someone for $950 million goddamn dollars, and you're like, Jesus Christ, that motherfucker don't have $950 million, but you just go really, really high. That way you've got a lot of wiggle room when it comes to the fucking settlement.
Yeah, that happens a lot when you sue companies. Also, this is in Florida, but not in Oklahoma, as far as I know. Florida has something called a homestead law where nobody can take your house. It's like Florida basically was like, we don't want nobody homeless. You can take everything else, but you can't take people's houses. But they had a federal lawsuit, so that wouldn't have applied. I only bring that up to say, like, the law has dealt with very much what you're getting at. Like, people sue beyond what the other person has all the time. And a lot of times it's because they want to settle someplace in the middle or whatever, as you said, Corey. And a lot of times it's because they literally want to destroy the other person. Right. Like, they want to destroy
Right.
them.
Not only do I want all your shit now, anything you ever make after this, that's also mine.
Right. So, beginning with his poor old parents and everything else, this whole part of it is pretty dark. This part where Joe's just getting bled dry by Carol, because of his own actions and shit, obviously. But his parents getting all fucked over. He turns to breeding in desperation. He starts breeding in larger numbers because he needs that little tiger cub money. And it's all just like, they show him being mean, these poor little kitties, and it's all just, this whole part's very dark. And then it gets to, they don't have the money, they don't have the they're not liquid enough to feed the animals at the zoo, because it costs $60,000 to $70,000 a month to feed the animals they have there. Poor old Cowie, he's at his wit's end. He says, we ain't even got enough meat to feed the goddamn wolves.
Kill the wolves.
But I'm just saying, it's a sad situation all around. And this is another one of those times where I feel like, Cowie seems like he gives a shit.
I agree. He's been my favorite of this whole bunch. Like, he's like the fucking Bobby of The Sopranos to me. Like, I know he's in it, but if you're going to be in it, he seems like the one that's like kind of cares and just wants to do it right.
He says, look, I don't want to, he says something like, I don't want to prop myself up or nothing, but I'm just glad that I was here. And like, when he says that, being like the type of guy he is, or whatever, you almost kind of like just like laugh at it at first, except like, hell, I'm glad he was there too. He seems like really torn up about this situation.
Right. In opposite, it also shows Carol maybe don't care much about cats, and she's willing to starve them to win this lawsuit. But I very much want to hear DJ's thoughts on this particular dynamic.
On what dynamic?
Well, first of all, Cowie out there trying to feed them fucking tigers the little bit of meat he's got when he ain't got shit, and being in that position. And then also just the idea of Carol, by suing Joe, kind of starved cats. And probably knew she would.
Dude, It's every dude. I mean, a drug addict's the same way. They get popped. They get hit with all these fines and stuff. They got to start selling drugs and stuff. Like he's selling, tigers. Then you have to go back to doing something that you don't necessarily want to be doing because you're in this bad situation.
What he's asking is, how do you feel?
No. I think he knew what I was asking. I think what DJ's saying is, it's like how the government says they want to end drug sales and drug addiction, but the way about it causes people to sell more drugs and do more fucking drugs.
Exactly. Once again, the government is really the fucking enemy throughout this whole entire story. The trashiest, shittiest fucking people involved in all this is our government. And I mean,
I agree with you, but in this particular example, Carol is sort of an analogy of the government. She says she's trying to stop Joe Exotic.
Capitalism.
Right. She says she's trying to stop Joe Exotic from hurting tigers, but the action she's taking caused more tigers to be hurt, and she can't pretend not to know it was going to go down like that.
Yeah, man. And she also doesn't seem, I mean, again, you could cut a documentary a lot of different ways, but as far as we're aware, that never seems to be any kind of a concern for them. Well, that's never addressed by them that we see.
And someone could fairly say to me, well, Drew, shouldn't Joe Exotic, if he cared about those tigers, thought about that before he did all these illegal things, like steal her copyright and threaten? And yes, he should have. Here's the difference between Joe Exotic and Carol Baskins. He has never held himself out to be some kind of fucking hero.
No.
Literally opens with, I'm gayer than a $3 bill. I've done drugs in my life. I'm broke as shit, and I like tigers.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to the whole, like, how could you be Team Joe and not Team Carol? And aside from the fact that it's like, look, we're just team, this is hilarious. The one thing is that separates them. If Carol and Joe are the same thing, then at least he's not a goddamn hypocrite and doesn't try to fucking put himself on a soapbox like, I just really care. He doesn't. He's just like, fuck it. I got tigers. This is rad. Look at me.
He's an entertainer who, whatever it is, he gets attention from this. Not only does he get attention and gets showered with love, whatever, that's how he makes his money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much different. She's not, Carol, she's a multimillionaire.
She tries to act like fucking Joe Exotic is out there doing fucking like arena tours and she's just busking for tigers when that's just not the goddamn case. Like, she wants to be the jewel in the van of tiger ownership, and she's fucking
know what it's like? You know what it's like? It's like some fucking hipster comedian in Brooklyn calling somebody on the road hacks when their parents are paying their goddamn rent. Well, I'm glad you get to do jokes about whatever the fuck it is you pretend to be into, Carol.
And but also, them people out on the road are fucking killing.
Yeah, exactly. Joe murders.
And dude, let me tell you something about fucking Brooklyn hipsters talking about how everybody on the road is hacked. That's one of the most hackneyed fucking things I've ever heard in my life. And all these goddamn hipster Brooklyn motherfuckers, all they want to talk about is like, oh, rent sure is high. We call it a bodega. There's a shrub that I saw. That was neat. They're just fucking hipsters. They're just fucking hacks contained in one little thing. At least my hack bullshit works in Nebraska, you piece of shit. Carol Baskins ass motherfucker.
Works in Oklahoma too.
Goddamn right.
Fucking A. So, again, this is one of the darker moments of the series, and things look bad. Things look real.
I thought that was the brightest moment we've had so far.
But for the Tiger King, things are bad. Okay, we're at a real low point. It don't look good. But not to worry, y'all. There is a savior.
Buddy.
Jeff Lowe came onto the scene sometime in 2015.
There he is. The man we've all been waiting for. You see,
first impression.
Well,
I hated him immediately.
Right, yeah. No, my first impression is this motherfucker here. You know, fucking mall ninja ass, affliction shirt wearing piece of shit. But also just like, the introduction that he gets, you know, kind of, it's appropriate. Sets the whole thing up. This is the guy who's going to save the day. His name is
It
Jeff
looks like-
Lowe, and he's here.
And if I know anything
monster
about
truck
those
with a
motherfuckers,
case.
he's watched that intro a bunch because he thinks that he looks like he's hitting like a motherfucker. Like this fucking human axe body spray son of a bitch walking in just like, yeah, that's it. Put some Danzig on.
Man, and let me tell you something, and he doesn't fuck with Danzig, but let me tell you something about guys like that too, is that women, 90% of women can see through them, but I've been around dudes like that, 10% can't, and it didn't surprise me at all that he had a hot wife who was into swinging at all. Like, no part of me was like, this motherfucker, I was like, yeah, I knew that was coming. Those motherfuckers always end up with like, because there's just something about them. Stupid people.
He's a fucking balling ass goddamn con artist. He's a con artist out there balling, doing
there's something about him. I'll tell you what it is. This motherfucker comes from old carny money. That's what it is.
Okay. But if you're young and hot, you can pick not a lot, but a few motherfuckers to ball and do drugs with. And I'm saying that 9 out of 10 hot women who can pick various people. You could go rapper. You could go lawyer who's on his second wife and is having a midlife. There's like so many ways you could go. And if you go the Jeff Lowe route, you're a specific kind of broke.
Oh, for sure. Like Jeff Lowe is like getting ball gagged and whipped. Like most people are not into it. But if you are into it, that is the only thing that you like.
Absolutely.
His last name is Lowe. Like, this is everyone's low point in their life is when you meet his ass.
I don't know, man. She seems like she's had a pretty balling ass life, dog.
And y'all, as we keep doing, we are forgetting the goddamn tigers. Yep. They show this man at work in Vegas rounding whores up, and he goes up to every one of them and says, I got a baby tiger in my room. You want to come pet this baby tiger? And every single one of them's like, fuck yeah, I want to do that. And again, I get it. Yeah. You're in Vegas party and you're hitting, and this motherfucker walks up to you and he's got an actual baby tiger up there.
Yeah. But then the assumption is that they suck his dick afterwards.
Which they probably don't. Hold on. I'd probably say like every once in a while that probably happens, but for the most part,
that's what I'm saying. And also, it's different if you agree to go to the room to see the baby tiger, drugs come out, you get naked and go down on the people you came with while he jacks off in the corner, versus you're the woman who drove to Vegas with him.
I don't know what
flew there with him on the plane while his farting ass was complaining about the stewardess.
Right.
I
mean, it seems like a good gig is all I'm saying.
Yeah, right. He's a piece of shit, but if you're going to be a goddamn con artist piece of shit, at least have some tricks up your sleeve. And goddamn it,
you might as well have tigers.
Yeah.
It's just like you were saying about being in a cult. You got to be in a cult. Be in a cult with tigers.
Louis C.K. was one of the most fucking generationally talented people on the planet. Fucking Joe Exotic has a mullet and fringe jacket. Don Quixote Block Oglevel, whatever the fuck his name is. At least he hangs out in Myrtle Beach. This dude is somehow rich, has tigers, and still boring.
No,
I'm
defending Trey's.
Much money and fucking wear affliction t-shirts and get a goatee. You could have been anybody, and you chose to be this piece of shit, a fucking Italian who's into MMA. I hope you die. I hope one of your tigers eats you, you motherfucker.
I'm just defending Trey's the lure and the musk of the tiger here, and saying that like, if Louis C.K. had had the foresight to have tigers in his hotel, then this may not have been talked about.
I mean,
saying that I completely agree with you. You're right, and it's all he has. I just hate this guy.
Aside from the government, he's number 2 shittiest person in my book.
Again,
first is the government, and then it's him.
Well, again, here's the deal, and as we have to say going forward, go get a beer, baby. No, I'm good. All of these
people. Give me one, DJ.
Get Drew a beer. All of these people fucking suck, and we're going into this knowing that these people suck. So we're just in that avenue of these people suck. We're just kind of highlighting their attributes there, because if all we want to talk about is how much they don't hit, then we got to at least play devil's advocate a little bit. Here's basically what we're saying is they don't hit, but in this world, here is why they may hit, which I think is what Trey was trying to present.
I get that. But we've all been around people who buy boats to have a personality, buy comedy clubs to have a personality. There's plenty of rich people out there who buy things in lieu of having real personality. And this dude bought tigers. And I get that that's a real allure. I'm saying even in the world of boring rich people, this dude offends me. Like, he is, honestly, Trey, Bobby Jewell is the only person who's ever made me angry or viscerally in terms of, like, you could do anything because you're rich, and this is what you choose to do. This is how you choose to be. It's unbelievable.
Okay. On that note, first of all, I'm not trying to defend him.
I know. My question to you is he did he make you visceral? Like, is he one of the worst ever?
I agree with what DJ said. I agree. To me, I think he's probably my number one biggest bag of shit in this whole thing. But one other caveat I'll have is you said, like, you're rich, you could have been anybody. No. He was born to be this guy. When I said that he came from old carny money, that's literal. He's like Papa had the biggest collection of tigers and elephants and shit in North America. Like, dude, he was always going to be
Carnies
this particular
are interesting.
guy.
I'm not mad that dude has tigers and parties in Vegas. I'm pissed off that the dude with tigers who parties in Vegas, whose Papa was a literal circus freak, is so unbelievably boring. He makes me angry at how shitty boring he is.
He's a sleazeball. He's got to be boring. He can't show you all that sleaze that's in there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. I think, though, that he's boring when we compare him to Joe Exotic and Carl and all these people. Because, like, I know that, yes, that person, that affliction part, that's boring. But, like, dog, if he was boring, we wouldn't be this goddamn riled up about it.
Yeah, dog, he wouldn't be looking for a nanny at his goddamn new zoo. You know what I'm saying? That's a scheming ass sleazeball.
If he was poor, we wouldn't know this about him. Listen, the argument you just made, Corey, is a valid one, and it's one I've been thinking about, and that's really the heart of what I'm trying to get at. Is I know in this documentary he's the boring one, but I'm arguing that this motherfucker, he's the worst. I've partied with dudes like him, except he takes it to another level. I hate this motherfucker. I hope Jeff Lowe dies. I hope he hears me say it.
I hate him too.
Said that. Yeah,
I hate him too. I just don't think I would say boring.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him boring.
That's what I'm saying. I hate him beyond the documentary. He's not just my least favorite in the documentary. I hate him.
Yeah. Everybody. I mean, the government hate them too.
Well, I've been hating the government. I was born hating the government.
This is a new person for you to hate.
I'm fired up.
Yeah,
I get what you guys are saying. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think I hate Jeff Lowe. He's probably like my fourth hated most person I've ever known.
He's my least favorite motherfucker on this show for sure. I'm just not gonna say he's boring. He just don't.
All right. When I was growing up, my mom's two biggest lessons were be kind and don't ever be boring. And to me, this motherfucker failed both those.
And you're one for two,
and you know what? You know what, Drew? It gets even worse because, like, as weird as it may seem, as hard as it may be to believe, turns out you can't really trust Jeff Lowe because we end on a teaser setting up that it seems like Jeff in the near future may try to fuck people over. And again, I know this spray tan mall ninja being full of shit is a tough pill to swallow, but that is what they allude to at the end of it. It ends on a employee of GW Zoo just straight up reiterating, in fact, saying 2 times directly to the camera, Jeff Lowe stole the zoo. And that's where we're at. Be done with it. You're right. So, all right, we're gonna get our guest in here, the illustrious Brent Black, friend of the Well Read podcast, and I cannot wait to hear what he thinks about all this crazy white people shit that we've got going on.
When we return, you may notice that we are wearing different clothes. That is because we had technical difficulties and we had to record Brent on a completely separate day. But now here he is. Back to the show. Skew.
Here he is, everybody, Mr. Brent Black, friend of the Well Read podcast, a very funny comedian, guy from Atlanta, lives in L.A., joining us now on Tiger by the Tail to talk about episode 4. What do you think about it, Black?
Quattro.
Yeah.
Quattro.
Huge episode of.
So.
Yes.
Besides the fact that this entire scenario seems unreal and completely ridiculous, the first thing that stood out to me about episode 4 is that this guy, The fact that he sings like an angel truly bothers me. Like inside of my soul, it bothers me so deeply because he's such a complete piece of shit. It's just like nothing beautiful should come from you.
Well, are you ready to feel a little bit of relief?
No.
Okay.
It actually alarms me. It's okay, so
But no, he is
we can offer
singing,
relief,
though, right? But I thought he was actually singing, isn't he?
He's like singing over a track. You know what I'm saying? So like it's barely.
But it's his voice that we hear, or no?
Oh, it's his voice.
I don't think it's his voice
think
because when he sang at the funeral, well, I don't want to jump ahead.
I don't know him personally. I didn't like see him at a funeral. Like I don't know, but like
that's episode 5.
It seems like he sings. I've seen like reality stars try to start. Like I've seen reality stars try to like start a singing career, and they put out a song, and like no matter what kind of like devil, like devil worshiping stuff they put on it, it still sounds like crap.
Yeah,
I don't even like country music that much, but I was pretty surprised. Like I was just kind of like, man, this.
Well, maybe you do like country music. You consider that? Because if this sounded all right to you, we got some shit you probably love, buddy.
Well, I'm
also, I gotta ask you this. I gotta ask you this. If you have a problem with angelic sounds coming from bags of shit, have you ever heard of all other music?
All other music is not angelic. But I'm not
the bigger the piece of shit, the better the music.
Most of the time.
R. Kelly. I saw R. Kelly in concert. Oh my God, transcendent.
Dude,
it was amazing. He had released dubs and shit, and I Believe I Could Fly. It was like he never talks without singing. Like he only talks by singing as he talks. It's incredible.
Led Zeppelin used to just beat people with snakes.
What?
I heard it once.
Who did?
He said that Led Zeppelin used to beat people with snakes.
But you know what? Oasis had beautiful voices, and they're probably the biggest pieces of shit on earth.
You're exactly.
So there is that.
Well, I don't think they qualify as like. I don't think they've never really like done anything horrible. They're just like really shitty. They say shitty things and they're shitty people. They've never like whooped a kid or like raped a dog or nothing, have they?
No, they were just like unapologetically English, and they suck.
That's enough.
With their accent, come off a bit.
When you do interviews and the things you say make me want to like hurt you, like that. Like you're just like, me and my brother, I hate him, but I love him. Like, oh God, I wish you would die.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But then Wonderwall. What the fuck else you gonna do at karaoke night? What?
I can imagine if my brother knew how to play guitar, we'd be in trouble.
When I lived back in Atlanta, I had like a group of friends, and you know how there's a friend of a friend that like you're not really friends with, but your friend brings him around, so you know him like through osmosis. So
friend-in-law.
There was this dude. I won't say his name. I want to, but I won't say his name. But there was this dude who was, I kid you not, the biggest drugged up piece of shit ever. Like literally, he would come around. Let's call him Smalix. So he would come around and he would just be like passed out on the floor. He'd be drunk. He'd do really dumb, idiot things. And he'd be like, God, man, I can't stand this dude. And like, I knew he had a band, but I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then one day they had practice at my friend's house and he starts singing like fucking Garth Brooks. I was like, what?
Yeah.
How did this happen? It's not fair. But the band crashed and burned, so it doesn't matter. Anyway.
But you do like Joe Exotic's jams.
Well, like is strong. I was surprised at his voice.
Yeah.
And I'd like to point out before y'all destroy me, I didn't say I don't like country music.
All right.
I said,
no, it's all right.
I can't say I'm a huge fan, but I like some country stuff. Right.
Okay.
So the reality show aspect was definitely like once I saw that part coming in, I was like, okay, this is about to get real. And when he comes out and he says, I'm the gay gun-toting redneck with a mullet, I was like, oh shit, it's about to get real, because you just self-described yourself as that. This is about to get real. There's a scene with him where he's on this throne surrounded by tigers. And the guy's like, yeah, man, I would walk past the studio and you just hear, he'd just be watching it over and over again. And I remember thinking, like, I mean, I don't know, if I kind of like filmed a scene sitting on a throne surrounded by tigers, I would probably also watch that over and over and over. Like,
absolutely,
it would be on a loop on my Facebook profile, like, with my music.
Hell yeah, of course.
That part was pretty dope. I do think he definitely burned down the studio. Like 100%. And I don't know if that was smart or
arson be like that.
Yeah, it does. That's exactly.
I was a little concerned that he went into his like this. Okay, it's so hard to like look at this in reality, even though it really happened, because like he goes into the lawyer's office and there's a camera while he's talking to his lawyer about illegal things, and like he's like, yeah, well, I don't have ownership over that. And the guy's like, are there any copies? And he's like, no. And he's like, well,
hey, that's one of the main, that yes, I get it. That's exactly the main reason why I don't think he gave old boy $3,000 to go kill Carol, because I feel like he would have videotaped that mess.
That is episode 6.
Oh, my bad.
Spoiler alert.
Black, that's also like what was weird to me about that is that, like, you're 100% right. He had his own cameras on himself all day, every day. But part of the reason they said he burned it down was because it's like, oh, because this dude's had a camera on him and that will make him look bad or might cause problems. And it's like, well, but what about all this other shit that you're doing?
That is stupid.
Yeah.
His lawyer suggesting him to do like a class A felony is also dumb. Like, what is this? Like,
Wait. Is that dumb for the lawyer?
Is that what?
He asked if that was dumb for the lawyer to ask his client to commit a Class A felony.
He didn't technically ask him to.
Right.
My man here. So what did he say, Drew?
He said, well, what if that went away?
Right. Yeah, he pretty much said what Black said a minute ago. He's like,
what
are
if
there
it
any
did?
other copies? He's like, no, there's no other copies. He's like, well,
there you go.
Yeah.
Man, when I used to defend kids, Black, I used to be a public defender. When I would defend kids and we had to go to trial.
I'm glad that you put that segue in there, because I was like, what do you do? And just like, leave that kid alone. Go ahead.
I used to be defending kids out here.
Just out here on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Why you put him in that t-shirt? He looks stupid, you dumb bitch. He didn't want to dress that way.
No spitballs on the playground on my watch. Do kids do spitballs anymore?
No, they beat each other up and sell drugs, which is what I was defending them for. So when we had a situation where we had to go to trial, but the kid clearly did it, but like I could think of a decent defense, we would say things like, I'm not saying this happened, but it would be helpful if perhaps, and then you give them the defense, and then they'd be like, yeah, that's what happened. And I'd be like, all right, well, that's what happened. I guess we got to go with that. And I got to believe my client here. I can't accuse this kid of lying.
Yeah. Thank God.
I mean,
I
guess that makes sense, but you didn't tell him to go burn down.
That's different. I agree. That seems different to me.
It is different.
like telling him how he could maybe get out of some shit is not the same thing as telling him to go do some shit.
Well, my defense of the lawyer.
Florida law. This is Florida law. It is different.
I think the difference comes in with the price tag, like with how much it costs. Like if I'm paying you like $3,000 a visit or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Versus nothing for Drew's ass, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. But so Joe is paying his lawyer, right? He didn't have a court-appointed lawyer at that point in time. So he's giving the lawyer the money.
No, that wasn't
like,
even a defense.
You have more money if you just burn everything.
Yeah, but
that's me. Okay. All
right. I want to be clear. I was defending the lawyer, saying he probably didn't do anything illegal. He still shouldn't have done it.
Okay.
Like, I cannot say that was
he
good legal advice, especially because he ended up fucked in the end anyway. Like, it was clearly bad advice because it didn't fucking work.
What didn't work? Whatever he wanted gone was gone.
Yeah, but he went to prison.
If I'm paying you as a lawyer, I want you to tell me what needs to be burned.
Right, and I would say, sure. I would say,
your job as a lawyer.
Yeah, what I would say is,
to burn down.
What you need to burn is this bridge you got with this fucking killer you're paying to kill old Miss Baskins. That's what you need to burn.
But that wasn't even going on at that point.
That lawyer needs to burn his law degree. That is a weird course of action. Like, hey man, I'm getting indicted on embezzlement. You should absolutely murder someone.
Yeah.
I have the solution.
Black, I want to ask you a specific question because you told me, I texted you and asked you if you had fucked with this show, and I think you said not yet. And I was like, well, we're gonna do this thing, and if you do watch it, we like to talk to you about it. Just so you know, full disclosure, this is some extreme white people shit right here. Like, and you were like, that's some of my favorite shit on earth is extreme white people shit. So I was actually wondering, now that you've seen it, how it kind of stacks up to some of the other extreme white people shit that you fucked with. Where do you rank it?
On a scale to paying your taxes on time to unseasoned chicken, I think it's pretty.
That was so great.
I think it's like up there. I think it's like up there pretty high. Maybe like a notch below the top. Because I mean, this has murder.
Yeah.
This has fucking tigers. This has drugs. This has sex. Gay sex.
Yeah.
This has burned up alligators. Never seen that before. This has some weird Steven Seagal looking dude with like 8 concubines.
Yeah.
That are sex slaves / real slaves. He looks like Steven Seagal. How did this happen? Oh my god. Oh, yo. Also, just the sound bites alone on random shit that wasn't supposed to be main parts of it were hilarious to me watching this by myself. Really, really high. But like, so one of my favorite parts of the show, of that episode, of the whole show, is there's a part where these 2 guys that used to work there are sitting in front of a computer and they're like showing clips of like weird videos that Joe used to make threatening Carolyn, and like where he's like, he's got the doll, he shoots it in the head, and like he's making weird shit. But then it's a part where they're like they're playing it and he's sitting there holding like a severed horse penis.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And the 2 guys are talking, and the guy like stops the other guy from talking, and he's like, by the way, that is a horse penis. That is the penis. A horse penis, by the way. True story. And the other guy is just like, that is true to my recollection.
Just so y'all don't think that we went and got us a prop penis.
Dude, he just nailed it. The greatest thing about this documentary is not what this documentary about, because even the murder in it, the person who gets locked up hasn't murdered anybody.
Yeah.
Like but those hidden gems that are placed all through it. That's what makes this documentary.
Yeah.
You gotta
so
find
fantastic.
When else would you hear someone say, by the way, that is a penis?
Yeah, yes, exactly. And it has nothing to do with the story. That was just like a clip.
Nothing. Nothing to do with the Tigers, Kings, and or murder.
Yeah.
Nothing. By the
You're
way.
Exactly right. You're exactly
absolutely
right.
A penis.
All right. Hey, listen, Black, sorry we had so many false starts with getting you on here, but we're glad you joined us. But we are about to have to wrap this one up because we've got another person that we're now making wait because we're bags of shit. But give us your parting thoughts, whatever you have, and also tell people how they can find you.
All right. So while I'm watching this show, what keeps going through my head is, especially in this episode, they're like, he keeps changing the lease into different people's names. He's going broke. It's $45,000 to feed a tiger every month. He's doing it for less than $3. He's like feeding them like fucking Oscar Mayer cold cuts and shit, which I'm pretty sure tigers aren't supposed to eat. Like, I don't even like eating nitrates.
Right.
I'm sure tigers can't eat Oscar Mayer bologna. And he's just like throwing it at him. And I'm thinking like, dude, why not just give it up? But then, like, I thought about it some more, and I'm like, I remember something like when it first started, the very first episode, 1:24 in, you see a guy in jail who's Joe, and he says, I went to work every day prepared to die in a tiger cage. That's how it started. And I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, that's a hell of a way to start this. So then I think about that, and I'm like, so if he gives this up, what the fuck is he gonna do then? Right. Is he gonna go work at the bank? Like, and the guy's yelling at him like, "You better cash my check. It better be available today." He's like, "Hey, look at me. I went to work every day prepared to die in a tiger cage. Fuck your check. And by the way, that is a penis. A horse penis."
Fucking A. Brent Black, everybody. Thank you, Black. Mr. Black Worldwide. Right?
Mr. Black Worldwide on Instagram. Always good hanging out with you guys.
Hell yeah. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Well, all right. Tiger by the Tail, episode 4. Thank y'all very much. We'll see you next time. See you later.
Well, Winwood, Oklahoma's where we meet our Tiger King. He's got them monkey chimps and tiger cubs, the cutest thing you've seen. He's got all his meth head buddies, and they're all working for free, serving cheap Totino's pizza covered in rotten Walmart meat. Then, of course, there's old Doc Antle. The Tigers made him rich. And don't forget about Carol Baskins. Man, we fucking hate that bitch. We got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by the tail, we got a tiger by the tail, baby. Tiger by